Welcome to the Jewelry District, a podcast by JCK, brought to you by De Beers. Today, Rob Bates and Victoria Gamelski talk to Dave Siminski, Vice President of Sales at United Precious Metals.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Jewelry District. This is Victoria Gamelski, Editor-in-Chief of JCK and jckonline.com, calling in from Los Angeles. And I'm with
Rob Bates, Contributing Editor to JCK and jckonline.com, calling in from my apartment here in New York City.
Hey, Rob.
It's World Diamond Day.
That's right, it is World Diamond Day.
We're taping this on World Diamond Day, so of course we have a gold guest. But
a gold guest, I know. We have a guest, the likes of which we haven't ever had on this show. He's sitting right here with us. Well, not right here because I'm in LA, of course. You're in New York. And our guest, Dave Siminski, is in Buffalo, New York. He's the Vice President of Sales at United Precious Metals, a refinery, a primary refiner. We're going to learn all about what that means and what he does. But he's here, of course, to talk about metals. I think the subject of the moment, of the year, perhaps the decade, it's been all on every jeweler's mind. I think the first piece of news or first website many jewelers check in the morning is Kitco or some analogous site on what the price of gold is doing. So I think we felt, and this was your idea, Rob, a really great idea to have Dave on the show because we really need to understand what's happening in this marketplace and why it's been so volatile and what retailers can do to sort of, optimize their businesses, mitigate some of these challenges of replenishing inventory. Anyway, that's a very long preamble to say welcome, Dave. Really nice to have you.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Victoria. I'm looking forward to this because usually I have two versions of this conversation. One where we're having like the podcast like this. And then I've always have another version where if we were sitting at a bar right now with a couple glasses of wine, I would tell you, I would probably put some other adjectives in there about what's really happening.
You can give us the bar version. We like the bar version.
We like the bar version. We like to imagine.
We can take it.
Well, I think I've seen you guys at the bar. That's why I've thrown that references out there.
I think that's a good guess. I feel most comfortable bellied up. Well, tell us, first of all, you've been with UPM for many, many years now. Tell us how you got into the refining end of the business, what your background is, and so on.
Okay, so United Precious Metals is based in Buffalo, New York. We're about the size of a Home Depot. I was basically recruited in 33 wonderful years ago. I've been employed with United, which today, I actually think that's a pretty significant thing in the jewelry industry itself, to be with one company for 33 years. And I think it's one of the best companies in the world to work for. I think it's one of the best companies in the industry. We're a big supporter of the industry. And how I got into it is, believe it or not, United to this day, we do what's called refining pickups around the country. So we'll actually go in on one of our own vehicles and we'll actually go to customers and pick up some of their material or drop off some product. And I started out being that guy that was just the second guy in a van, helping out, load drums and unload drums. And then it morphed from like the first 2 years at United back in 94 and 95 into, well, I kind of have the gift of gab and people kind of, like my disposition on things. So they moved me into sales and it's just been a rocket ship ever since, to be honest with you.
I mean, what was the price of gold in 1994? Do you even remember?
The thing what always sticks in my head, because people always Google it or they'll go to Kitco and all that stuff, is $254.
Yeah, do you own any gold or?
I cannot confirm or deny that, Rob, but I'm going to say I am watching the market at this point. How's that?
Yeah.
Fair. Well, how would you describe this moment then? Does it feel unprecedented to you, or is this kind of what you've always expected gold to do over your 30-year career?
Gold's always gone up, so it's always been on a path, right? It's been an incline. So, going back, the big things on the gold industry from what I see is like it started in like the 250s when I started back. And then also 2009, 2010, it hit that $2,000 mark for the first time. And then it went crazy. And then the We Buy Gold people came out and, the Cash for Gold Super Bowl commercials happened and everything was going on, and sometimes like I'd be on the couch. I'm like, oh, that's one of my customers who just did that commercial and that commercial. And I saw MC Hammer and Ed McMahon doing, the Cash for Gold commercial. I was like, yeah, we're going to have a problem. But after like 11, it fell back down. And now it's been on a steady climb up. Yeah, you always think it's going to go up. It's like a stock, right? You always think it's going to go up. The problem is January 1st of last year, 2025, gold was like 28.25. So for it basically to double, because it went to 5,600, before it came down, for it to double in less than, let's say, 15 months, that's the problem. It hasn't been over years. I mean, it shot through numbers. Like, I remember when it was 32 and I'm like, it went to 34 and then 36 and then 38 and then 4,000. And like, it didn't even have a chance to build a base. It just shot up like a rocket, which is part of the problem. The jewelry industry, has a tough time with that. And so does a lot of people. The bullion industry, everyone does, when it shoots up that fast and it's so volatile.
Just to back up for a minute, because I think it would help. And I realize I don't really know. You talked about your customers, and I thought, who are your customers? Are you serving, retailers all the way through big manufacturers? Do you work with ever individuals? Like, tell me a little bit about how the refining business works.
So from our standpoint, like I said, from United's perspective, we do two facets of the jewelry business. We actually do three. We do analytical, which is a small part, which will do a lot of testing for companies when it comes to carat, color, thickness, plating thickness. But our mainstays is being a primary refinery where you're taking everything in from gold scrap to bench sweeps, anything in the manufacturing process, sweeps, carpet, sink sludge, anything like that, torch filters. We're actually bringing that stuff in. We're reclaiming the gold, silver, platinum, palladium in those materials. The other half is we generate products. We make products, solder, wire, casting grade, master alloys. We carry about 250 master alloys that we sell all over the world. United has about 30,000 customers. So, and each customer is great. Doesn't matter if it's a hobbyist or a major company. Doesn't matter if it's international or it's domestic. From our standpoint, we help anyone in the jewelry industry that could use our services.
As a refiner, with this kind of crazy environment for gold, it hasn't been, one would think, oh yeah, it's great, gold's going doing all this crazy numbers, but you said it's been kind of a difficult period, and for you, and I think for just refiners in general. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's been really difficult, and it really started back. I'll tell you really where it put everyone on notice. It really started back when silver went over $50 for the first time, just like in a year and a half ago. Let's just say when silver went over 50. So what happened when silver went over 50? What happens is everyone on the planet decided to take flatware. So basically their mom or grandma's tea sets or, forks and knives and spoons. Well, they brought it to your local pawn shop, your scrap guy, your retail jeweler. So what happens, $50, and some of that stuff weighs a lot of weight. So there's value there. So what happens is the refiners started to get inundated at 50. So that's really what happened. So more and more stuff's coming. So it wasn't silver trees. It wasn't silver jewelry. This is what started it. And this is what started what's called the backlog and the capacity issues. And then silver went 60, 70, 80, 90, up to 120, while it just kept coming. The problem is when you got so inundated with all this material coming in, and at the same time, you had what's called backwardation in the market. So what happens is the silver market wasn't lining up between the New York price and the London. So lease rates back in October shot up from, let's say, 3%. It actually went to like 200%. But like a lot of our banks for a while were charging us 90%. So to put that in context for your listeners, all of a sudden have your credit card go from 3% and you have a balance to 90%. And how much we were paying on interest. So everyone, because every primary refiner hedges metal. We're not looking to make money in the markets. We hedge it with the bank. So when it comes in, we'll do the material, we'll do the assays, but we'll also get the bank price to pay you at the same time. But then what happens is that interest charges is what happens. We build what has a backlog. So Rob sends that stuff in, Victoria, you send that stuff in, and what happens is usually it takes us about a week to do it. Now what happens with so many capacity issues, it wasn't taking us a week. It's taking us 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, months to do it. So you want to get paid, we pay you, but then the problem is we can't get it into the right form for us to put on the market to get paid. So that's the interest charges that we're now paying. So it's a capacity issue on the silver and even getting onto the gold now, because the markets are moving higher. And what happens is the interest is getting more. We have like a backlog ourselves. This is stuff that what I tell people is like when the silver was coming in, this wasn't like good silver. And I mean like good silver, like 925 sterling. You're getting people that were sending us the flatware with the knife handles in. Well, the knife handles are steel. That brings the analytical down. It brings the assay down. And silver refining works different than gold refining. Silver refining, the purer it is, the easier it is for us to refine. As it gets below 92 to 90 to 88 to 87, 86, it gets harder for us, and it tears our equipment apart to do those lots, which means it takes a longer time frame. So as this is all going on with silver, okay, so what's happening is it's becoming more financial than anything. So people used to think about refining from a standpoint that it's about labor, consumables, utilities. Not anymore. Refining is about finance. It's about finance.
Wow, it's incredibly complicated. I mean, but tell us more about what the situation is now in terms of capacity, in terms of
The situation is really for most refineries, most major refineries, silver is still really shut down. So anyone who's trying to get silver, some guys are taking it a little bit, but your bigger players and all that, they're really shut down. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to deal with the backlog. All that stuff that came in, they're trying to get it out the door because it's tying up financial capital. So they're trying to get it out the door. The problem is, the funny part is when all these markets and things started going up, one of the things that was happening is governments around the world were no longer buying US Treasury bills, T-bills. So what happens? They bought physical silver. They bought physical gold. They empty the vaults in London. So the ironic part is you have a shortage of fine metal. You have refiners that have way too much metal, but the refiners don't have the capacity and so much to get that into fine metal. So what happens as soon as they get it in, it's bought already. It's like it doesn't even hit the shelf. So people are stocking up, countries are stocking up on all this stuff. So this is the problem. And like I said, is when that stuff's coming in our place, it's silver, but it's not great silver. And it takes us a long time to refine it to get it into that point where the marketplace wants it. You know, that's the best way to put it.
This podcast is brought to you by De Beers. It's not every day a bridal offering reflects love the way desert diamonds do. Both are completely natural. Both take time to form. And no two are ever alike. That's what makes these rings mean so much more. From sunlit whites to golden hour champagnes and sunrise blushes. Colors as natural as love itself. This year, introduce your bridal clients to Desert Diamonds. A diamond is forever. Visit adiamondisforever.com to learn more.
Wow. And in terms of the volumes you're dealing with at UPM, is it primarily silver? Like what, and you work with palladium, you mentioned, and platinum. Are those what else are you refining?
The big one's gold and silver. So now what happens is, like, I explained the silver issue. So the silver issue is really a financial issue to a point, and it's a backlog issue. Now the gold issue has more to do with gold's $4,700. You only have so much capital and so much capacity. So let's take United during this. A lot of people shut down. There were major refineries that were shut down for like 5-6 weeks. They weren't taking anything. United made a decision to take care of our regular customers. We were going to stay open. So we weren't taking new business. So we weren't taking new gold business and new silver business. So really we're just moving the gold through the system. The problem is gold's 5,000. So people are just getting it because the economy is not that great. People are going to pawn shops. They're going to retail jewelers. They're cashing in that gold scrap. And so you might have had a customer last year that did X amount. Well, they're doing Y amount and they're not doing anything different. But that little 30% increase or 20% increase that they're getting by just natural of markets, well, think of that as your whole customer base is getting like that. So from our standpoint, even the gold's coming in, we're processing it, we're getting it out, and we're good at it. We're really good at it. But the problem is it just comes in. So I tell people all the time, United's perspective is when it was busy in 2000, we usually average anywhere from 30 to 50 boxes a day. And then 2010, it went to like 125. Right now, what happens is we're getting some days, we're getting 200, 250 boxes a day. So we're unwrapping them, and there could be some gold in there, some silver, some platinum. And everything has to be, weighed up. Everything has to be double checked for weights. This is precious metals. This is people's livelihood. This is people's money. So from our standpoint, sometimes it could be 200 boxes, but it might be 300, 400 lots. So what happens a lot is basically could be a little bit of platinum, bench sweeps, gold scrap, whatever. Well, that has to go through the full melting process, burning process, analytical process, and it's like every day. So what happens is it's hard because what's happening with this markets where I remember one of the questions were like, it's not always the best times for refineries right now because to be honest with you, we're beating the hell out of our equipment, we're beating the hell out of our people, and we're beating the hell out of each other, okay, just to get this stuff out. And it's like, and we're great, like we've worked together at our company for a long time, but it's just like it just never stops. It's like that Seinfeld episode where they were talking to Newman about the mail and he goes, the mail never stops. And it's just like the packages right now never stop. And I think one of the things to talk about is people are like, do you get more precious metals, do you get more scrap and stuff when gold goes up? Believe it or not, it's the opposite. We get more when gold goes down. Because think of it like a stock. If you have a stock that's going up, very rarely are you going to sell it. You're not selling it. Because what happens is that mentality is like, that stock's at 100, but I think it can go to 110. And what happens? Yeah. So you hang on to it. Now, if that stock's 100, but it falls to 90, you equate that to real dollars. So you're like, all right, I'm going to put a stop or I'm going to sell and I'm going to get out of this because it could go lower. And you actually feel those are real dollars you're losing. Well, you're not really losing till you sell, but it's the same with the gold market. So when the gold market falls $150 like that, people are like, well, and we were talking earlier about with the war and all that stuff that's going on, like, well, what if gold goes from 46 and goes to 36 tomorrow? Then people are like, I lost $1,000 an ounce and I was going to send in 100 ounces. I just lost $100,000. So they think like in that regards, and they'll always ask me, Dave, where do you think it's going? I'm like, we talked about a little bit earlier, man, if we really knew, like it's such a guess right now. It's tough to really to pin something on it.
Just one quick question. Do you see it breaking 6,000?
We do.
Here's a question that I know you've gotten in the past. Is it possible to bring in more machines, more refiners, build up capacity? Do you think that in the future, just in general, refiners will expand just in case we get into situations like this?
See, one of the things, yes, and that's what we just bought some new equipment. But like I talk to people about new equipment, like we bought a super oven a couple years ago. But at the end of the day, by the time we buy it, install it, getting shipped to us, it's a year project. Nothing moves quick. It's not like hanging a picture. So what happens? We're buying new equipment. Then what happens with new equipment? You have to look for space. You have to fit it into your system. You have to test it out. You have to make sure. You have to get delivery of the parts. You have to have installers. I mean, like it's a process in itself. And what I tell people all the time is one of the issues is, you mentioned it, Rob, just about is new refineries going to be built. That's really tough. Because what's happening is in the end, what happens, there's only a select amount of refineries in North America. So we're the end guys. So everyone feeds us in one way or another. Okay. So what happens, most of these other people are what are called smelters, where they just melt it and prep it enough that they can pay on the analytical and pay a customer. They have a place on the food chain and they provide a service. We have to finish. So what happens is we're in a different realm and all that type of stuff. Even though we could do the business for all their customers, it's just different when you're just, all right, sending it off. The problem is at the end of the day, is for us to add capacity, which we're trying to do, it just doesn't move fast. I guess it'd be like trying to put like a kitchen in while you have an existing kitchen and you need the existing kitchen while you're remodeling the new kitchen. And that's really the problem. So no one really in the industry, the metals industry, refining industry, if you've been around for a long time, it would traditionally shut down between July 4th week and let's say Christmas week. Everyone would take vacation at the same time. That doesn't happen anymore. So during those times when we used to shut down, we used to do maintenance on the equipment, get things replaced, all the pipes, all that type of stuff, making sure all the motors work. We're working all the time now. So you're trying to keep old existing equipment working while trying to add new equipment at the same time. Don't be down, because if you're down for a day, you're you're literally, from our system, for what we put out, you're stopping millions of dollars a day flowing through your facility.
Oh, gosh, so much to think about. I wonder if you could just speak a little bit about what retailers might be doing wrong when they're preparing their gold to send in, or if there are ways that they can optimize what they're doing to make more money, to just be more efficient customers.
The best thing to do, there's two things really the retailers can do. And first of all, I think the shows in the industry have done a wonderful job of providing education. Just like this wasn't available a long time ago. If it was sporadic. Rob would be writing an article and every now and then and all that type of stuff, which really helped. But for what a retailer can do is one is when whoever your partner is in the refining or melting end, to make sure you understand exactly what the charges are and what the fees are and how long it takes to processing. It's your material. Nobody cares more about your money than you do. The next person that does is me. So what happens is know exactly what you're paying for, what the services is that are being and what it's costing you. That's number one. And what happens is gold, silver, platinum, palladium, the more you can separate it out, the better it is. When it mixes together, it gets a lot harder for us to refine because we're almost refining it multiple times and have to segregate that metal out, which takes more time. And then what happens is, this is as people are watching the market falling or going up, falling. And then what happens is they're having a problem because they feel they're losing dollars, but they threw the platinum in with the gold scrap and all that stuff. And it makes it harder for us. And I think one of the misconceptions is people think, like, from a refining standpoint, I tell people we use science. We use science. There's difference between a smelter and a refiner. A refiner, if you really want to know who you're dealing with, ask whoever your representative is. Ask them, A, do you make your own fine gold? And is it being sold on the open market? And B, do you have a water treatment plant inside your facility? Because if you don't, you're not a primary refiner. You have to have a way to treat those chemicals and that water that comes in here. Everything that comes into our facility is clean. It has to go out our facility. And we have all the special people, the OSHAs, the DECs, and everyone who comes calling to make sure that we're doing right by everyone. So when you're a primary and all that stuff, I think the misconception is we throw everything in like a crock pot, and there's a gold nozzle, a silver nozzle, a platinum nozzle, a plate, and you just open up that nozzle, and that's how the material flows. That's
Right.
not how it's done. So I think what happens is most people don't really understand how much chemicals and really how much we have to do to segregate out that metal and listen, you can segregate it the best you can from the retailer standpoint or the wholesaler, or even the manufacturer. But if you're working on 4 types of metals, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, you're going to get it into even your low grade. It's going to be into your sweeps. It's going to be in your stuff. So it just takes us longer to refine it. We'll find it. It just takes us longer to do it.
Are you still seeing, you mentioned, uh, you know, the heavy volumes, and you said the volumes increase when it goes down. Are you still seeing the kind of heavy trade-ins to retailers, the people selling grandma's locket and stuff like that? Is that still going on?
Yeah, 1,000%. It really is. And also too is, here's the problem. So let's say the pawn industry is a big part of the jewelry industry. Okay. Because the pawn industry, it's funny, like you have some, like I always have to, when we're talking to some of the high end jewelry folks, I'm like, I'm like the pawn industry, if we didn't have them, you'd be in trouble. Well, what do you mean? I'm like, they feed us the metal. They feed us that metal that we make for you, that you can make your designer pieces and all that type of stuff. But the pawn industry struggles because what happens is they want every retailer or pawn, they want to keep so much in the case, right? The customer wants to come in, they want to look at it and all that stuff and buy it. Well, the problem is some of these industries, what happens is their customers might not be able to afford it at gold at 46, 4,700. So now you're taking stuff out of the case, Rob. You're taking stuff out of the cases that normally you might hold on for a while, but you're turning it faster because that little bit of jewelry that you just took out of your case, you're able to scrap out for $25,000, make payroll, make budget, all that type of stuff. So there's that danger of emptying out the case too much.
One thing we haven't talked about, and you kind of just touched on it just a second ago, is this idea of pawn shops feeding you so then you can turn around and feed the jewelry industry. And it brings up this idea of recycled gold, which, when I started writing about jewelry in 2000, that wasn't really a term. It just wasn't something you thought about, even though I think on some level we all understood gold was melted, it was reused. What do you make of that terminology, and what can we consider truly recycled gold versus kind of standard gold that's just melted and reused?
My definition is different than some of the certifications definitions. The issue is, for me, the definition of recycled gold is already above ground. You're not going into the earth. You're not redisturbing. You're not digging. You're not causing issues. You're using what you already had here. Okay. So from our standpoint, when we're melting gold scrap or old inventory for people or stuff that people brought in, it's recycled, because what happens is we're taking it from one form, we're going to put it back to 24 karat. They're going to be new jewelry made and all that stuff. And we didn't do anything to disturb the land. Okay. Now what happens is there's different certifications that have different definitions and all that type of stuff. And some of it, but like, as my argument with the certification people, and I've had plenty, I've gone into, is just like, the more parameters that you put on something, the harder it is for us to fulfill the industry. Okay. We are a good partner to the industry, green, clean, all that type of stuff. We're trying to do the right way. We're in the United States. We have guidelines. We have town guidelines, village, parish, city, state, federal, to do all this stuff. But every time they do, they make a change, it makes it hard. We're trying to keep up, and we're in those certifications that everyone sees. If they go to our website or someone else's website, we're paying tens of thousands of dollars for those audits to come in, which adds to our costs. Our compliance department, Victoria, used to be one person. Now it's 7. To make sure that we're doing right. We go on site visits all over the world just to make sure where the material we're getting in, that they're doing it the right way. We do our own internal. We'll actually spend our dollars to make sure that it's coming through and all that stuff, because people do want that. The majors, all the big guys, they push this to the manufacturers, to the wholesalers. So it's a whole train of how the whole thing works.
All right. Any final thoughts on gold? Anything you want people to know?
I think what happens is, when it comes, volatility is really the name of the game. The president could say something tonight and gold could go up 100 or down 100 or 200. He could say something about whatever. Something can happen, so it can move very quickly. But usually I say, don't judge it on like a 1-minute conversation. Judge it after like 3 days or something like that of how it's going. And my biggest thing on the metals portion, just the jewelry industry is a relationship business, just like the refining. We're all in this together, right? We all support the industry, the trade shows, the associations. So we're all in this together. It's a relationship business. And I think the better relationship you build with your vendor partners, the better off you're going to be. That's what I would say. And that affects, because they're going to give you where they think the metal is. And like I said, ask questions. And if they're good answers, you're with a good partner. If they stumble on their answers, you might have to also do some research.
All right. Great place to end.
Yeah. Will we see you at JCK Las Vegas?
You will.
All right.
It's a staple.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Dave. Thanks,
you. Dave. This was great.
That was great. Thanks.
So
I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to The Jewelry District. I'm Natalie Comet, the producer of the podcast. Our editor is Riley McCaskill. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast wherever you may listen. Any views expressed in this podcast do not reflect the opinion of JCK, its management, or its advertisers. Thanks for listening. We hope you join us next time on The Jewelry District by JCK.